Have you ever felt that whisper in your soul calling you to something more, but all the things spinning around in your mind have kept you stuck? Well, what if I told you that choosing excellence could be both easier and more adventurous than you could ever imagine? I am Chelsea DeBruin-Colbert, your host of All Things Excellence. I'm a soul catalyst for excellence who leapt off that corporate cliff and left small-town Iowa farm life in my 20s to follow my calling, helping women come home to themselves by anchoring into who they're designed to be. I create sacred containers where women rediscover their truth, design their dream life, and transform those whispers into action. Now you can find me running my business from the soccer sidelines as a coach's wife, hiking my favorite Arizona mountain, or back in Iowa with my family, or on an adventure chasing my next sunrise, hot cup of coffee and journal in hand. Through intimate conversations about the stories, the traumas, and the transformations behind choosing excellence, we're creating a collective healing journey together. I believe in diving deep into personality designs, experimenting boldly, and learning life's greatest lessons through our beautiful chaos. Every week, my guests and I are going to rip down the curtains so you can see behind the scenes of real transformation as we explore what excellence actually looks like. Not just the highlight reel, but that messy middle where the magic happens. Whether you're seeking inspiration to take that leap or already on your journey and craving connection, this is your invitation to join us. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to discover just how close you are to the life your soul is calling you to create. This is All Things Excellence. Hello, All Things Excellence fam. Welcome back this week to our very first episode of our new series called All Things Excellence Unscripted, where you get to bring your coaching questions to me for free, and I will do live coaching. We've had people submit questions throughout the week, and we have categorized them for this week's episode to be called Enneagram in the Workplace. Now, your questions do not have to have anything to do with the Enneagram, but this week there were an alarming amount of questions that were about the Enneagram, so we've clumped them together to make a really fun episode for y'all. So don't forget to go to chelseadbc.com/unscripted, where you can submit your coaching questions about life, family, work, Enneagram, human design, any of that good stuff. Also, something that we've been doing, we are on week 5. You can subscribe to the Excellence Edit. It is an email that I bring you every single Friday. It will showcase the new episodes that we've released this week, but it also shows you what I am loving, buying, reading, obsessed with, the areas that I am growing, and recipes that I have been cooking. So anything good and fun that's been going on in our house is featured every single Friday in that email. So yet another thing that you can subscribe to at chelseadbc.com/ we're going to put it in the show notes because I kind of forget. But check the show notes. It's there. You can subscribe to the Excellence Edit. I think it's like Excellence Edit Opt-in or something like that. Look below in the show notes. It's there also where you can submit some questions. All right, now let's get started. Where I'm going to start with y'all today, I'm going to start with the questions, these few questions that were submitted that I felt like these were probably the best 3. So first of all, how would you go about using the Enneagram as a tool in a work setting where it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to ask people to take a quiz and get typed? Now remember, you guys, I think the quizzes suck anyways. 67% of people tend to mistype, and I honestly think it's even higher than that. I think that's the people that we figured out mistyped, right? Are there perhaps some casual questions you could ask someone on your team to get an idea of the Enneagram? This person is wanting to use this as a tool in their corporate job. Someone else said, who is she's on more in an entrepreneurial space, said, in what way do our core fears and motivations shape our perception of reality? Very, right? And how can awareness of this through using the Enneagram help us see more clearly? What role does childhood experience play in the development of types? So she says, I know you've touched on this before, but I just, go a little bit deeper into it. So first, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to bring you guys 3 areas of the Enneagram. So when I teach the Enneagram to an individual on a masterclass or to, when I go to workspaces, right? People will invite me in to train their teams. Part of 3 areas that we end up talking about are what each type looks like when they are, we call it activated, but it's basically triggered. Okay, I hate the word triggered. I think it's overused, but it is a good word, right? So what does each type look like when they're triggered? What actually ends up triggering them? And how do you best get along with them? And so those are the three areas that I'm going to bring y'all today for each Enneagram type here in a second, because I think that here's the thing you have to remember. At the end of the day, it isn't behavior. Like Enneagram is not about behavior, it's about motivation. It's like why are they actually doing this? Why are they behaving in this way? And so, on that, any type could look aggressive, right? Anyone can be unhinged. Ones, threes, and eights, I think especially can look aggressive because they're going after perfection and efficiency and excellence. I think that eights get a bad rap. I'm like, I'm the respite here for eight. I'm always advocating for the eights here because I think that everybody thinks like somebody can't be an eight if they're not aggressive. And if they are aggressive, it means they're an eight. Last night I was talking to a client and ended up also talking to her two roommates. Like before I knew it, it was me in my kitchen and Kobe and my client and her two roommates. And we were talking about everything, from Enneagram to like dating advice and all the good things. They're a little bit younger than us. So it was very fun to put ourselves back in their shoes at that age and be talking through that. They're just right outside of college in those first post-college careers, post-college relationships. And I was saying, I think the one of them is an Enneagram 8. And they were like, no, she can't be because she's not like a bish. We're not swearing, but that's what we said. And I said, well, wait, I'm an 8. Like, come on now, And I think that we have, as a society, really labeled what that looks like, that type. And I think that eights tend to get tossed like, oh, she's aggressive and rude, so she must be an 8. She's not aggressive, she's not rude, she can't be an 8. And that's just not true, right? And so you're going to see all the different types today, what they all look like when they've been triggered, what triggers them, and then how to best get along with them. I also think like an Enneagram 7 who's stressed out could be aggressive. An Enneagram 2 who's stressed out, they reflect more of an 8. They could definitely be aggressive. We've got counterphobic 6s where they look so much like an intense one-to-one sexual 8 because there's 3 different types of each type, right? There's a 1-to-1, which is also called sexual or social, or more of your like safety and security version of each Enneagram type. And so counterphobic 6s, they resemble a lot like a really cranked up 8 because they are more amped up at life, but their underlying motivation is fear. While an 8's underlying motivation is to not be controlled, a 6's underlying motivation is fear. Like they're literally just afraid. And so we're going to jump into that today. We're going to talk about how, just because someone's helpful, it doesn't mean that they're a 2. You look around your workplace and you go, oh, they're so helpful, they must be a 2, the helper. Well, that's not true at all, because a lot of times Enneagram 9s are very, very helpful because they want the peace. A stressed out Enneagram 3 goes to that 9. So they are also helping because they want the peace. Or a very secure 6, or even an 8, you guys, an 8 who is very safe and secure in their environment, picking up the best pieces of that too. They also look like a 2 because they become so wildly helpful. They're safe, they're secure in their environment. I was making notes about all these different types that we tend to label as aggressive or not, and or very helpful. And I think a 4 can also look really aggressive because they can be so misunderstood because their deepest need is that someone sees them as unique. And depending on their emotional health level, depending on how seen they're being in life, they might be being really, really loud and aggressive because they just aren't being seen. So going into that, I think another thing about the workplace is you need to embrace the decision that absolutely any type can get along really well. Any type can hate each other and any type can love each other. And forever and 10 million years, I think God is so good the way he gave me, the Enneagram 8, a sister-in-law, the Enneagram 4, because my number one core value is family. I would do absolutely anything for my brothers, their wives, my parents, and our littles, absolutely anything. And so when I was met with, the 8 was met with an Enneagram 4, 2 that would more than not are a little bit oil and water, right? They are like lighter fluid and fire. It forced me to really dig in and figure out, as the several years older sister-in-law, who do I need to be to help her feel the most safe and secure? Because when you can help someone else feel safe and secure in your relationship, then their health can grow, right? Their security grows in your relationship, and then they can eventually meet you in the middle. But you might have to go a lot of the ways over towards them first. And so I want you to know that with that, our relationship has radically changed using the Enneagram over the 8 years. And so know that anyone can get along with anyone if they choose to. And you might be the person that's been chosen to have the tools and to start by going the majority of the way to them first. So we're going to talk about what activates or triggers people, who are they when they are activated and triggered, and how to get along with them so maybe they aren't so activated and triggered. So when you're getting into this, if you don't know your Enneagram type yet, y'all know that I have typing sessions. I love them. It is like, you do not need to take a test. Between my intuitive clarity giftedness that I was just given by God and my deep extensive knowledge of the Enneagram, we're able to come together through a series of questions and find out your true Enneagram type, or at least one that we land, two that we land really solid on, and I'll work with you over a short period of time to try both on to figure out which one is really for you. But I want you guys to know that I tend to most find people's type by first finding out what triad are they in. Are they in that gut anger triad, the heart soft emotions triad, or more the head thinking triad? And then I tend to look at their behavior when triggered, because we can all be anyone when we're being our best self. We can all be helpful. We can all be kind. We can all, be peaceful. But when the gloves are off and crap hits the fan, who are we being? How are we showing up? And so I tend to figure out like where people go in stress and what they look like when they're triggered. And that really helps me find their Enneagram. I want y'all to know no one in my family, except for my mom, has actually taken the test. Neither one of my siblings, neither one of my brothers have, but we have very easily typed both of them over the years because we've really dove deep into what motivates them to do what they do. Externally, they both are very high achievers, very wildly successful for their age. But internally, what motivates the both of them is incredibly different. So every single Enneagram type has kind of a base need, this base underlying need motivation. And before we get started, I'm gonna let you all know that. So ones are perfection, the need to be perfect. Twos, the need to be needed, right? Like their worth is in that. Does someone need me? Threes need to be seen as successful. Not necessarily that they are successful, but they need the world to view them and see them as successful. Fours need to be seen as unique. Fives need to be seen as competent. They have this deep need to know, have the wisdom, have the knowledge, feel competent. Sixes have the need to feel secure. Sevens have the need to avoid pain. They are our joy junkies. They are our master reframers, right? Master reframers, master avoiders. Eights have the need to come against. As an eight, I can say it sucks when you realize that, because it basically means that we have to hate all new ideas, concepts, products, and people at first. And then next thing you know, you're going to blink and we absolutely love them. I have another client whose husband is an eight, and we were talking one day and we were laughing about the fact that the eights, we 1 week we hate people, and then 3 weeks later they're our very best friend. And I couldn't even deny that, because our basic need is to come against. Like we have to wall up, get all defensive, and assess this person, this product, this situation, this change at work before we can accept it. I used to call a work mentor and go with changes in my company and go, okay, this new change coming, we both know I'm going to hate it. So I need you to tell me the 5 reasons that I love it. And luckily for me, she was a 7, so she had like instant 5 reasons as to why something was great. And I had 27 reasons as to why it was going to suck. And not to be confused with a 6, right? Like a 6, they might feel that's more safety and security. And me as an 8, I'm just coming against it because I can. Because, at 10 years old, I was probably everyone's best little lawyer who wanted to just argue for the sake of arguing, really to come against and disagree. And finally, we have our 9s, our peacemakers. And their need is to avoid their boat being rocked. Their need is to avoid their boat being rocked. So flipping back to the questions quick, we're going to we're going to go over these. Like, you can look at those needs, you can see how they respond. I think the biggest question that you could ask your coworkers is why? But why? Making sure first that you've been invited in to have these kind of conversations with them, but also when we dive into the triggers and what how to get along with them, listen to the specific phrases and the nuances. Just so you guys know, the stuff that I'm going to be reading off today, you actually can go to my website, chelseadbc.com, and you can download the full workbook of this. It's super cheap. You can buy it, download it, so you can have access to this. Print it out and put it in your desk at work so you can really quickly access it. It's also the same workbook that if I work with your team at work, they also get a copy of. So, and then the other question, what way do our core fears and motivations shape our perception of reality? Well, that's everything, right? Like, the Enneagram is all about perception. We're going to dive in and look at 9 different colors of glasses that people are looking through. So it is everything. It is, the Enneagram literally is every single thing. It is what motivates them and what lens are they looking at to see the world. What role does childhood experience play in the development of the types? I think this is a great question because your childhood doesn't dictate your Enneagram, but your Enneagram does dictate the way you experience your childhood, but you can also experience it in a repressive way or a reactive way. This morning, I was actually working through some clarification with the person that submitted this question, and I gave her 2 examples because we there are 2 4s. We both know 2 Enneagram 4s. And I said, this one, she is the repressive version of that, where she had a parent in her life who I would say over coddled her need for uniqueness, right? Overextended that need, overplayed into the melancholy and the woe is me, whereas the other 4 that we know is more that's more the reactive. The other one we know is more of like the repressive version, where she grew up in a household where she wasn't allowed to have emotions at all. So you have this Enneagram 4 whose deep need is to be unique, to be seen as the individual. The one was raised in the reactive version where all of her melancholy was played into every single day and the world revolved around her melancholy. And then you have the other version where her parents were like, you're not allowed to have this melancholy. You're not allowed to have these feelings. You're only allowed to be happy. And so she had to repress that need to be unique, that melancholy feeling that she would constantly have. And so you have now, as adults who are not that far apart in age, they're probably about 5 years apart in age, you see how that's playing out in them so differently. Both of them were trying to pull now to the middle. I've been working with both of them on their Enneagram, pulling both of them in, meeting them both in the middle on this very topic. So, all right, let's see. Let's dive in. We're going to start, of course, with our 1s. So, Enneagram 1s, how to get along with them. Actually, let's start out when they're triggered, when they're activated. Okay. So first of all, how to really set off an Enneagram 1, criticize them, lie to them, they've been deceived, misguided, when others don't follow through on their responsibilities, right? So Enneagram 1s in the shadow can tend to be a little bit of micromanagers because they have this perception of perfect that everybody needs to attain to. What else sets them off? When others do not collaborate when plans change. So in the workplace, this could be someone where it's like, you've changed the meeting time, you've changed the meeting topic, you didn't tell them, you're definitely going to make them mad. Others not taking responsibility and not doing their job or role with precision and accuracy. So it might also be perceived as to them, they're like, this is the way that it's done. And to everyone else in the workplace who isn't an Enneagram 1, they're like, these are not even attainable. Like, this is outlandish and ridiculous. Now, I'm going to throw my friend on the bus here. In her workplace, where I have trained them on the Enneagram, she has this thing about making sure there's no water spots on the sink when their customers and clients are coming in, right? It's a place where people come for services. And I always have to tease her about it because I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm the one who's actually putting the water spots all over the sink. And she's like, it's just common courtesy. Like, you wash your hands, you take a towel and you dry the sink off and you throw it away and you go. She goes, I do it at home. I do it everywhere I go. And what I'm going to tell you is, as an 8, my brain, by the time I'm washing my hands, is so many 8,000 tasks deep on where I need to be going and what I need to be doing for the sake of the world, to progress the world and what I'm supposed to be doing. The last thing that I'm thinking about is looking down and noticing that there's water all over the sink, because my brain is already, I mean, my brain is already out that door and checking off a million tasks. It is definitely not looking at the water spots around the sink, but she expects the people that she works with to remember that. Now, she's the boss. She gets to do that. But what I'm going to tell you is it is harder for them to remember, because their motivation in life is not to go, oh, yeah, I need this environment to be perfect, right? Based on what their Enneagram type is going to dictate the things that they tend to see. So they're going to have to create the habit that, it's not that the habit can't be created. It's just, it's going to be a little bit harder for them than other people. Now, behavior tendencies of a one, when they are activated, they can speak in a short, sharp, and curt manner, bring up accusations related to other issues, being rigid, inflexible on their standards, and come across as self-righteous. They show their anger and displeasure through non-verbal cues, right? Because they're the repressive version. So they're shoving down this anger, pursed lips, tight jaw, eyes glaring, tense, rigid upper body. How to get along with them? Take your part of the responsibility so they don't have it resting on their shoulders. In other words, they just need you to feel like you're actually doing the job that you're supposed to be doing. Their inner critic is constantly criticizing them, so reassure them often, tell them that they're awesome, and affirm them when their advice has helped you. So if you work for or with an Enneagram 1, just make sure you're affirming them and thanking them for how they are helping you raise the bar in your life. Moving on to 2s. How to activate a 2. The 2s get activated when they feel taken for granted, when they're not feeling appreciated, or they're feeling underappreciated, feeling unappreciated or underappreciated, not feeling heard or listened to, right? They want to be seen and heard, not sensing that they are needed or wanted, feeling rejected or dispensable. Now, I want you to be careful, because that also, like, my sister-in-law is an Enneagram 4, and those things right there, when she is like at her, I'm going to say at her worst, and I don't mean like she's being bad. I mean like when life is really stressful for her and there's a lot going on, which any of us can be at our worst. I want to point that out. I'm not saying when she is bad. It's not what I'm saying. I can see those things in her as a 4, not feeling seen, not feeling heard, feeling rejected, which to me, as her sister-in-law, who loves her and would literally do anything in the world for her, I do go above and beyond to make sure she feels accepted and seen and heard. Now, why? I have to work really hard at that, because as an 8, I'm not that good. I'm like the opposite. I'm actually the worst at making people feel like that, which is why it's a little bit more work for me to do. Behavior tendencies, when Enneagram 2s are activated, they can withhold their feelings from others. They kind of do this martyr thing. They become a martyr and they kind of push people away. They become intensely emotional, expressing themselves, and extensively tell you how they feel, why they feel that way, and why they believe the other person did wrong. Now, an Enneagram 2 who's been set off also can kind of look like a raging 8, because when a 2 does not feel safe and secure in their environment, they reflect the trickier side of an 8. How to get along with a 2. It helps when you tell them specifically what you appreciate about them. They focus on others' needs, so take a genuine interest in their problems and help them take care of themselves, right? Because they're always helping everybody else. Enjoy connecting with them and having fun. Remind them of the good and value you see in them, because they always forget, right? Because they have that deep fear of rejection. They're also very sensitive to criticism, so affirm them first before gently telling them the harder message. Reassurance and affirmation are important. Moving on to type 3. Type 3's activators, they're triggers, being blamed for someone else's bad performance or work, right? Because they want to be efficient, but they also want to be, their biggest need is to be seen as successful. Results, whatever. They need to be seen as successful. So not looking good or being embarrassed. So they get activated if they don't look good, they get embarrassed if they haven't been validated, affirmed, recognized, or praised for their accomplishments. More than likely, words of affirmation is pretty high on their list, right? Being put in a situation where failure is a high probability. If you put a 3 in an unwinnable situation, you're going to see them crash so quick. I have a really good friend who, in her dating world, she's a really, really good friend who loves me so much that she'll occasionally be like, I need to hire you to talk about this. Like that's a good friend when they're like, I need to talk through this and this is what you do. So, like friend slash client technically, right? But really good friend where um, she's single and she was in the dating world and she was exclusively dating this guy. And all of a sudden one day he sends this email about this other woman. And it was like shut down city because she'd been put in a situation where it was impossible to win because she didn't even know that there was somebody else, right? And I've seen her multiple times in her life where it's like situations where it is absolutely impossible for her to be the best, the favorite, the whatever. And she's laughing listening to this because she knows, I mean, it's a thing. And I always hate that for her because we can laugh and go, oh my gosh, that is your three coming up who's been put in an unwinnable situation. And it really just triggers a three, right? Because their need is to be successful to win. Their behavior when they are set off and activated, they disconnect their head from their hearts and focus primarily on achieving rather than relationships. So remember, threes are emotional based, but they shut down. They're the repressive heart people, right? So they shut down the emotions and they just focus on checking the box. Their body language is not likely to reveal their emotions. One of my brothers is this. Their desire to solve issues quickly and efficiently, right? They want efficiency. Ones want perfection, eights want excellence, but threes want efficiency. They want to solve the issues quickly and efficiently, so their tone can become sharp and sentences shortened. They will begin to ask questions, think fast, and make decisions quickly. Now, how to get along with a three best? Affirm them by telling them that you like being around them. Express how proud of them that you are, right? That words of affirmation. Don't distract or interrupt them while they're working. This actually makes me so crazy because this brother of mine, like the one brother will stop what he's doing to spend time with me. And this one, the only way I'm going to see him is if I go to his job and which he owns the place, so it works. And I literally follow him around. Like that's the only way that I'm going to get quality time with him when I'm back. And I know that I accept it. It's cool. It's whatever. But don't distract them or interrupt them while they are working. They welcome feedback as long as it is not overly critical or judgmental. I will tell you all that y'all, if you guys are watching the YouTube, you just watched 10,000 light bulbs go off in my brain. I've been studying this for 8 years and I just never stop having ahas about it. So my husband Kobe is an Enneagram 9. When nines feel most safe and secure, they look like threes. And wow, y'all, there's just so many. I'm like, I see this in him so big. Where when he is so safe and secure in his environment, he's just in this gotta go mode and doesn't like to be interrupted. So threes, how to get along with them. They welcome feedback as long as it's not overly critical or judgmental. Just go easy on them. They also thrive when their surroundings are harmonious, tidy, and peaceful. Okay. So can look like a 9, but remember, a 9 is motivated purely by peace, to have a peaceful environment, while 3 is motivated that they look successful from the outside. They look like they've got it together. Enneagram 4s. What triggers an Enneagram 4? Being asked to do something contrary to who they are or their values. In StrengthsFinder, their belief would probably be in their top 10 for them. Anything that evokes their struggle with envy, right? Because their like deadly sin is envy. They get really envious of how other people are so comfortable in their skin. Like they wish they could just be so laissez-faire about life. My sister-in-law and I have talked about this. We actually talked about this just recently when she was here visiting. They will get triggered if they don't feel like they're being seen as unique, special, or different, or if they're not being valued for their unique contribution and viewpoint. So make sure that you just really shine a light on how they specifically bring something to the table that no one else does, right? Why you specifically love them. Like they don't like the group text messages. They don't like being lumped into things. Behavior tendencies when a 4 is triggered, they can withdraw, become quiet, or voice their feelings and opinions bluntly. So they will either go put themselves in the corner, hide away in a room, you won't know where they are, or you could see them like very emotionally expressing themselves. A multitude of feelings arise that they must work through and understand before moving forward once they're activated. They try to get others to understand their perspective and feelings, of which they feel feelings like eating a bag of Skittles at once. Like they're experiencing all the emotions of the rainbow and they need to feel like you understand them. Now, can you truly understand them? Absolutely not. But can you take time to see their perspective? Yes, you can. They also tend to hold on to their feelings and moods for a long time, which I will tell you all, me as an 8, you could make me mad and 20 minutes later, I forget why you made me mad. 4s are the exact opposite with this, which is why I just think that sometimes it's more important for me to focus on creating a really good environment with my sister-in-law, because I'm going to forget why she upset me, and she is not as likely to forget. Moving on to 5s. 5s are the professors, the teachers, the investigators. They love to know, right? Their need is to be competent. You can activate a 5, trigger a 5 by giving them an overwhelming amount of tasks. So remember, a 5 wakes up every day with a finite amount of bandwidth. And so they are the ultimate resource managers. They can look like a 1 sometimes because they have their whole world put together so methodically to manage the resources around them, time, talent, treasure, all of their resources, right? Because they can't bank energy. They can't bank bandwidth. So they have to be constantly managing that. It'll also activate them, set them off if people break confidentiality or are dishonest. They do not like being surprised, intruded on, or obligations placed on them. They need to know, what do you expect me to do? What am I saying yes to? They also get activated when others don't honor their need for privacy to recharge and process their thoughts and feelings. So in the workplace, I think especially in the workplace with these people, you've got to really think about, if you have a 5 that you work with or work for, or 8s also can go to the 5 when they're in stress. I see this in myself. So it's like one day, you have to be very grounded in reality as to who they can and can't be for you as far as work that they get done, but also bandwidth that they can give to the team, right? Like, their ideal of fun is absolutely probably not an all day or multi-day team activity. And if it is, you need to make sure that they have their reset time, especially if you're this like extroverted, outgoing, people loving person. You have to be really sensitive to the fact that they couldn't be more opposite from you than that. When they are triggered, when a 5 is triggered, they can become withdrawn, quiet, angry, enraged if others are cornering them and not respecting their boundaries. Everybody's boundaries deserve to be respected, but you're going to see an ugly side of them if you don't respect their boundaries. They might detach by not showing their emotions. They're not necessarily, Kobe and I have a really good friend in our life where he is a 5, and I think that the most of the world gets the very detached theology-based version of him. But what I will tell you is, when a 5, they're a 5. When a 5 feels very safe and secure in their environment, they have a lot of thoughts about their feelings. Like, I have another good friend. I have 4 people who are very good friends and an uncle who I know all 5 of them so well as 5s. We kind of think my nephew might be a 5. And you see that need to know. You see that need to be competent. You see the way that they devour information like nobody you've ever met. And when they feel safe and secure, like they're with somebody they can trust, they have a lot of thoughts about their feelings. And you can see a little bit more emotional side of them. You can also see them when they wing to a 4, you can also see them wing to a 6 and get a little doomsday, right? And so they're shoring up all their resources. They're holding their resources tight if they're winging to that 6. And so a 5, I wouldn't even say you need to ask them questions. You can just watch the way they process information and how they guard their time. When they're activated, they also detach by observing their surroundings, later dealing with their thoughts and feelings, and they can come across as intellectually arrogant. I see this with all 5 of these people, that when they feel a little bit backed into a corner or surprised, which activates them, right? So it's like, let's say I ask them a question that they weren't prepared for, that can trigger them because they have a need to feel competent. So they feel backed in a corner, and next thing I know, they are like becoming intellectually arrogant in a way, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can tell that I set them off and they're just spewing information at me, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to just get me to abort the original question. How to get along with them: don't be clingy or overly emotional. Instead, be independent, rational, and resourceful. This is why my husband's best friend is a 5. My husband is a 9. His best friend is a 5. They are both independent and they are not needy of each other. They might not talk for an entire month, but then they are thick as thieves every single time they're together. With a 5, speak in a short, straightforward, and concise manner. Understand they need a lot of alone time to process their thoughts and feelings and recharge. They don't like surprises, intrusions. They don't like clingy people, needy people, or overly emotional people. That because it so quickly depletes them. Moving on to our 6s. Our 6s, the loyalists. What triggers them is being targeted, blamed, or accused unfairly, being put under pressure when others aren't genuine, authentic, and honest. They thrive on honesty. There was a person one time who was not honest in a situation with my baby brother. I'm like, y'all, it was 8 years ago. Like, let it go. Can we just move on? No, he cannot move on. He still remembers. We've still got to bring it up constantly. When others lack commitment, loyalty, and follow through. It was like somebody wasn't honest. They lacked commitment. They lacked loyalty. And oh my gosh, if they are just not dead to him forever. Actually, it'd probably be better if they were dead to him. They're not. He just keeps like bringing it up. And so they have a hard time moving through those things. That really sets them off. They don't like being lied to, abandoned, or the appearance of either. Others not taking their anxieties or concerns seriously. Because remember, a 6 can kind of doomsday prep, kind of spiral. So you can't just deflect and tell them like you're doing that thing again. You're just being so anxious. You got to meet them in the middle. Like entertain them for just a little bit, meet them in that well, and then entertain how they're feeling because it is real. Like they are actually experiencing that, right? And then help guide them out of the well, calming them down and soothing them. When they are triggered, they can withdraw or be highly reactive. So you can notice they like disappear or they kind of get all up in their crazy, the sky is falling. They begin to engage in intense mental analysis of any given situation or conflict. Analysis paralysis is their game. They presume their projections are accurate and true, leading them to unconsciously attribute their unwanted and acceptable thoughts, feelings, motives, characteristics, and behaviors onto others. So just remember, they think the sky is falling. They think it's real. To them, it's real. What they're experiencing internally is real. How to get along with them: be clear and direct when you're communicating. Listen to them carefully while having compassion. Be a source of reassurance and support. Have a good sense of humor with them. Lighten the mood. Demonstrate and verbalize your commitment, loyalty, and support, and acknowledge that they are also supportive, caring, responsible, and loyal. Now, what I will tell you is an Enneagram 9, when in stress, they reflect the wild side of a 6. So I can see my husband get stressed. Like when he gets backed into a corner and he's stressed about something, he goes to this 6 where it like what he's thinking is accurate and true, and I'm not going to convince him that the sky isn't falling. So I have to meet him where the sky is falling so he can then move to a place of safety and security, feeling like at least the sky might be falling, but at least it's not falling alone, right? And then I can bring him back to the middle, to his healthy little peaceful self where he realizes, that he was death spiraling. So you can see that a little bit in a 6 or in a 9. It's just that it comes across way more extreme and consistent in a 6. Moving on to 7s. Remember, 7s are our adventurers. They are our master reframers. So what triggers them? Being limited, restrained, dismissed, or not taken seriously. Remember, they are the gluttony people. The more is always more, squeezing all the juice out of all the berries of life. They hate, what will set them off, what will trigger them is also being required to do mundane tasks, being unjustly criticized, being forced to deal with negative circumstances that might never get resolved, being pessimistic or overly critical people who are always pointing out the negative. It's very hard to get grounded in reality with a 7. My mom is a 7, and I've always made these like matter-of-fact statements, and they are just like matter-of-fact statements, and she does not like them. Poor thing, a 7 who has an 8 child. Behavior tendencies when they're triggered they will try to avoid these unpleasant situations by thinking and planning for alternatives. Like, again, master reframers, they begin to rationalize their behavior. Y'all have heard me talk about my best friend who is a 7, about the different behavior and the different relationships that she has rationalized over our 15-16 year relationship. They reframe circumstances so they sound better to themselves and others, and they blame others for being negative and keeping them from having fun, right? So you get them all triggered up, and they're like, you're just being a fun hater. And I think this one's easy to spot. 3s and 7s tend to mistype because a 3 is like, you are messing up me looking successful, but a 7 is like, you are messing up me having fun. Right? A 3 knows that they're kind of creating this facade. A 7 lies to even themselves, right? A 3 is just trying to make sure you see the good. And a 7 is like, they need to see the good. They probably don't even care what you see. It's all about what they see in their own brain and the experience they're having. How to get along with a 7, give them freedom and space to be independent. They're just the freedom and flexibility people, right? Accept them as they are. They do not like being limited, bored, restricted, or told what to do. So they enjoy life by being enthusiastic and positive. So jump on the fun train with them, listen to them, enjoy their fun stories and amazing ideas. They've got charisma for days on days, usually, and can always tell a good, entertaining story. Laugh, have fun, and experience the abundance of life with them. Moving on to our 8s. Yay, our 8s, the challengers. Here we are. How to trigger an 8. Breathe. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes, though. No, I'm just kidding. Some days. So, what triggers an 8? When others don't deal with issues directly. Get to the point. Like, what is up, what is wrong, and why? Just say what you want to say. Seeing injustices not being addressed. This is why I just don't watch the news at all. Others not taking responsibility for their own behavior and actions. Like, just own it. I'm like constantly like, own your crap. Like, when you hit 30, you do not get to blame your parents for the way you are anymore. Hire a therapist, hire a coach, figure it out, get up, get over it, and take responsibility for your actions. Others not being truthful, direct, and straightforward. It activates an 8 because it feels like you're being annoying and you're wasting time. And we can't be excellent if you are being annoying and wasting time, which is annoying, then, we get annoyed. Also, you can really trigger an 8 if you blindside them, betray them, or manipulate them. Y'all will never, like, my friends know, if you want to make me hot mad, manipulate me. Make me feel like I'm doing this for the sake of the world when really I'm just doing it for you. And you manipulate me, I will set an entire wildfire all by myself. Like, theoretically, not a literal one. Behavior tendencies. What an 8 is like when they are triggered. They synthesize information quickly and act decisively. You will see them in kick butt, take names mode. A surge of anger that feels like fire in the gut that needs to be expelled immediately. I don't even know how to describe this. Only 8s understand that there is, like, all of a sudden, when you get triggered, there is a fire in your belly. It's just a burning that needs to be spewed like a dragon onto the world. They use various strategies to protect themselves from vulnerability, harm, or feeling like they're being controlled. They will seek advice only from those that they trust, that they know will not betray them. And they will discard those they do not respect. My husband said that it takes forever to gain my respect and trust and a moment to lose it, and you will never get it back. That is his personal opinion of me as an 8. How to get along with 8s: stand up for yourself and also stand up for me. I had a friend, my friend Kelly, we were standing in the parking lot and someone had like really bashed the Enneagram, to be real. And she really went to bat for me in like the most hilarious, savage way in that parking lot that day. And that was a day that I fell in love with her forever. Like, there we are, thick as thieves, friends forever, because she stood up for me. And that goes a long ways, because I always feel like everybody comes to me to stand up for them. And sometimes it feels great to just be stood up for. Be confident, strong, and direct. No, I know that you see a strong and intense exterior, but know that we have a tender heart. We are the Ferrero Rocher candy, super rough, crunchy outside, absolute mush on the inside. We care for people like you can't even imagine, and we are the ultimate softies in the inside that most people never get to know. Acknowledge that the eight is protective and providing, but don't flatter them. Like flattery makes me insane. There's this guy that's around uh, of us a lot. And he like does this flattery thing, and every time he does it, I always look at Kobe and I'm like, oh my gosh, like drown me in the glass of water right there, because a flattery to me is manipulation. I'm just saying, like, that's how I feel. I feel like when someone's trying to flatter me, I feel like they're really just trying to manipulate the situation. And then I just lose even more trust with them. That's just the experience. I'm just saying. And also how to get along with an eight. We speak bluntly and assertive. Please don't automatically assume it means that we are angry or attacking you. I always say, sometimes I just am trying to get stuff done and I'm not slowing down enough to wrap all of my words in blankets. It literally has nothing to do with you. I'm just trying to move forward in life and get things done and probably hit excellence, because I probably overpromised what I could actually get done in that day. And I'm just trying to check all the boxes. Last up are nines, how to activate our nines. This is my husband. This is my sister-in-law. This is my dad. This is so many of my favorite people. How to activate, how to trigger a nine, any disruption in their peace and harmony. Take advantage of them or tell them what to do. You cannot tell my husband what to do. Oh, my Lanta. Everybody thinks like I'm the crazy intense one. No, it's him. It is absolutely him. He's just like quietly intense, but you can absolutely not tell him what to do. You can ask him, but you can never tell him. They hate being overlooked or ignored. They hate being directly confronted. These are the things that will really trigger them. Directly confronting them, or if they see someone being rude, insensitive, or harsh to other people, right? Rocking somebody else's boat, you're going to set them off. Once you've triggered them, they withdraw and they don't say anything, right? Because they're the repressive of the gut anger triad. Their facial tension may give you a slight indication of anger, but they're going to be unaware of their anger and strategies to protect themselves. Like I will have to check in with my husband and be like, what's upsetting you today? I think you're stressed. And he's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, okay, all right, you are. Do we want to talk about that now? Or should we go for a walk? And on the walk, you'll realize like you're really angry and upset right now. Like, what do you want to do here? So you kind of have to draw it out of them, because they really are pretty disassociated with the emotions that they're experiencing at that time, right? Because they just want to avoid any surge of emotions that will rock their boat. They may display anger and frustration toward another person that isn't involved in the original conflict. I know if it's been a rough day at work, I am absolutely going to get the brunt of that when he gets home. And I'm okay with that, because then I can encourage him to go on a walk. I'm cool, y'all. I can like detach myself that it is not about me, because the thing is never about the thing, right? Him being mad at me because the way I like replied to something actually isn't about that. It's about something that happened at work earlier in the day. And I can encourage him to go for a walk with me and we can get to the bottom of it and we can talk it out. I like remove your need to be offended with a nine. For God's sake, please remove your need to be offended. How to get along with a nine. They are slower than you. Don't rush them. Be patient. They're slower than you walking through the grocery store. They're slower than you making a decision. They're slower than you replying to a conversation. Like, oh my gosh, they're slower than you responding to a text message. They're slower than you eating. They're slower than you probably in everything they do. Tell them that their presence matters. Remember, the growth for a nine is that they speak up and let the world hear their voice. Listen to them until they finish talking. I'm just going to own that I'm going to be terrible at this forever. My husband's stories are very slow and very drawn out, and they take forever. And my wing 7 sees 80,000 squirrels before he even gets 0.1 of 27 done. So I'm really bad about this. He constantly gets mad at me for interrupting, and I'm like, can the story be quicker or more entertaining or something like that? Because then I could pay attention easier. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying to be better. This is where we meet each other with humor in the middle. Nines enjoy listening and having conversations, but remember they don't like tension and conflict. So we have to meet them because that's just not life, right? We got to meet them in the middle and go, I know you don't want to talk about it, but we're going to have to. What would be the best environment for us to do that? Sometimes I'm like, should we get you ice cream and we can talk about it while we eat the ice cream? They tend to focus on others, so take the time to really focus on them. They are the last person who are going to talk about themselves, so make sure that you pull it out of them. So I hope you guys listen to that. When you think about Enneagram in the workplace, think about that one who you just feel like they might have unrealistic expectations. The two, they might be overly helpful, but are they overly helpful because they're trying to keep the peace? Or are they overly helpful because their value is being needed? The three, appearance is everything. You'll see them. They need to strive and succeed so the world sees them as successful. Recognition is really important to them. Fours just want to be seen as unique. Fives have to be competent. They are your information absorbers. Sixes need to feel safe and secure, so changes, you'll see it make them anxious. Sevens are your party people. They are the happy hour after work for everybody people. Eights, you're going to see them in the workplace because they have to hate everything before they can love it. And nines are your peacemakers. You feel like that good, peaceful vibration from them, and they're just trying, sometimes people pleasing, and they're people pleasing in a way because they just want their environment to be peaceful. So I hope y'all had fun listening to these today. I hope this helped to deepen your knowledge about the Enneagram. And in closing, remember, there's one or two things right now that you can do with me. If you've listened to this, you want some more information, I want you to book a 30-minute intro clarity call with me. We can dive in and see, what do your next steps need to be around this? Maybe it needs to be around the Enneagram or creating more clarity and certainty within your life using your Enneagram. Or you can book a typing session with me if you're like, I don't even know what I am, but I think I might know what I am. Or for somebody that you know, book a typing session. All of those down below in the show links. Thank you guys again. Thank you, All Things Excellence fam. And I can't wait to see you on our next episode of All Things Excellence Unscripted.